It's 7 o'clock. We are going to start the meeting. Who is going to do the Pledge of Allegiance? I think the young man in the middle back there in the gray shirt is going, whoever's back there in the gray shirt is going to do the, there you go. Come on up. Come on up, dude.
All right. There's a little young man in a gray shirt.
There you go. Do it from the podium.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
What's your name?
Jonah?
First and last name?
Jonah Ing.
Oh, good. That way, when your parents look at this on YouTube, they'll be able to say their son was there.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome everyone. Pledge of Allegiance. Motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second, anybody?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Staff presentation, Dr. Mannon.
Mr. Flagel. Thank you, Dr. Mannon. Good evening, President Lee, esteemed board members. As always, and to the thousands of viewing residents and the countless members in the audience behind us, it's always a pleasure to represent and introduce the design and construction team that's seated behind you that will come up in order. Angel Hosband from HMC, Emily Kay, and Wolf Calderon from Balfour Beatty to update you on the happenings of YZTNU. It's a beautiful picture of West High School entry there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a nice photo.
And with that, we'll bring Angel up to speak to her projects.
Good evening. It's been a while. Okay, so we're going to update you first. West High School, you saw the pretty picture beforehand. The modernization is complete. So both the mod and the auditoriums are both complete. We're going through the closing out process right now. Hope to get certification pretty soon. And we have a rededication ceremony scheduled for April 17th. Are there any questions? All right, we'll move on. So our middle school gyms, we have Magruder and Madrona. They've both started grading. Actually, I think it's Madrona that's a little bit ahead of Magruder. Or Magruder is a little bit ahead of Madrona. And then we have Bertlin. Bertlin's going to start around mid-July, and Cali Mayor will start mid-August. Or do I have that one mixed up too? Flip-top too. Are there any questions regarding this?
So you're waiting for DSA on Berlin and Cali?
No,
Oh, it
they're
says
all
DSA.
DSA approved. We're just waiting for, I guess, the construction's teams to move over.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yep. North High School and South High School auditoriums. North High School is a little bit further along than South. I think North is around 85% complete. South is about 70% complete. And we have a beneficial occupancy coming up April and May. That's when DSA will allow move-in furniture and whatever needs to be done prior to occupancy of people in the building.
Cool. Can't wait to see them.
And that's right.
May 15th.
Really fast. Measure TNU. I think that's Emily or Wolf. Okay.
Thank you, Angel.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Lee, members of the boards. We are finally resumed the work at Torrance High School with the tennis courts, and we should be completed with those tennis courts in 2 months, I would say. That's everything for the tennis courts. Any questions? Of course, the rain has been delayed this project, but we're hoping that the rain allow us to finish up the projects very soon.
So mid-May.
Yeah.
If there's not more rain.
Is there some more rain?
Every time it rains,
Should I?
Yeah.
the lights.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Mara?
Good evening. All of the two-in single-point access devices are in front of all of the schools and running, except for South High, that's still in DSA, because that's the system that needs to tie into the fire alarm, so that needed to be approved by the state architects up north. And I'll bring up Raptor, right? We've been working on the guidelines for the visitor management system, known as Raptor Tech, and we've been talking about this for a while. We developed, or we have a draft of some guidelines on how it will work at the school sites, and an FAQ for the public so that the community understands how this will work. We're going to introduce it to our principals all of next week during the principal meetings. Do a run-through, talk about the procedures for this system, and really hone in on a lot of the questions that they may have. And there will be a lot of questions, right, when you put something like this in place. And you're going to have some questions, and you can ask them right now.
Yeah, I would
Don?
think the three new people have no idea what you're talking about.
Correct.
Correct.
No.
So
Right.
why don't you fill them in?
I will. So the process is this. We want to manage the visitors who come to our schools. And you'll see in surrounding districts, and a lot of districts now, you walk into a school, I present my California state ID or my driver's license or even a passport, and they'll scan it into the system. It goes out and searches the Megan's Law database and checks to see if you are a felon, sexual predator. If there is a hit on the system, your picture will come up on the screen because you're in the database. And at that moment, the secretary will make a decision because there may be a false positive. There could be another Gilmara who's been a bad person out there. And they'll either say, yes, this is the person standing in front of me, or no, it's not. If it's yes, the person standing in front of me is a known felon, a sexual predator, they have to make a decision. And so the guidelines spell out what they should do next. And what we're going to figure out, and what we've done and what other districts have done, and what we've done in Hawthorne, because this is where we had it before, is the minute they click, yes, this is the person that's standing in front of me, it can immediately text and email someone or some persons. So it can go to Edon, it may go to Ben, depending on what school it is. It might go to Tim, and he can jump in his car and run out and provide support, or the SRO, or the principal. So that's what we have to decide. Who does the alert go out to provide support to the office staff that may need some support? And again, I'm talking in generalizations. This is how a lot of districts have rolled it out. The office person will say, you know what, at this moment, we can't issue you a visitor badge. Can you have a seat? Someone will be out to speak with you, which could be an administrator or a person. And at that point, it's really at their discretion on whether or not they allow this person to visit the school or enter campus. So those are for the folks that we don't know about, so that they may just show up. If we have parents who do have a right to visit their child, maybe, during parent conference, for example, and they need to enter campus, but we know that they'll come up on the database, you can flag certain people on the system and mark them, this is a known person, we know about this, and then have some notes in the system. So that's in general how this works, no different than, maybe slightly different, but I went to Kaiser like a few months ago, and it's kind of that same system. You get scanned, your picture shows up on the badge, right, that comes off of the ID, and the time that you were scanned in, and the location you're supposed to be at. So if it says cafeteria and you find me wandering around on the basketball courts, someone on campus saying, hey, you're kind of in the wrong place. Your badge says you shouldn't be out in this part of the school. You need to be, back at the cafeteria. So a lot of this is behavioral training too, and understanding for our own staff, are we aware of the people on our campus? And I think we also have to educate our own folks on wearing our own badges so that, I walk onto a campus, not everyone knows who I am, and without a badge, I'm unidentified. I can only assume that, well, the principal knows me, the office knows me, but that's not enough on a campus with 50 to 100 teachers. Like, well, who are you and what is your business here? So if we really look at safety overall, this kind of adds another layer of it, just trying to identify the people on our campus. So
Mrs. Reagans?
So have we given our staff any inkling that this is going to be coming down the pike? I know we have tested it, and so at least one school knows it's coming. But do they have any idea this is on the way?
We have talked to them, the principals. We've discussed with the principals each step we take for safety and security, so they know that there is one step left. This is the last step.
And they've shared that information with their staff?
They may not have, and that's why Gil and Tim are meeting with all the principals next week again.
Okay.
To ensure
And the
that.
same, by staff, I mean office folks as well as
And then there's going to be a training.
teachers, et cetera, who may have
Remember-
parents that have questions about it too.
Well, remember, we run the system for 2 years at Hickory.
I do. And
it's-
actually, it was an
and
interesting
it's worked-
trial, actually.
Yeah, well, it's worked very well. Gil can tell
Yeah.
you that had very few problems with it.
Yeah. I do have one question about the buzzer entries.
Yeah.
So if there are schools that are still having trouble with the gate not automatically closing, that's something they're working out with you, or they need to work out with you, or they've tried to fix it a bunch of times at a couple schools and it's still having issues?
Yeah, if it's not working, I mean, that's the closer. and
It seems like
I have to
it's
work with-
defeating the
I
purpose.
have to
yeah.
work with Ian's team and then sometimes Balfour Beatty's team. Yeah, but mostly have it all come to me. The trick with these now, and then Ian and I have talked about this, is, all the gates always work. They always close, they shut. But now when you add electronics, the tolerance for the alignment
Yes,
of the gate
that is a problem,
has
yeah.
gotten tricky. So if they're not quite lined up and they hit the buzzer, the secretary goes to unlock it. If it's a little off, it won't unlatch. So, I think I've said this before, it'll be a constant readjusting and troubleshooting. And I think we have an issue even right now at Arnold. And Ian's folks have gone out. So then we have to backtrack, like who's, it's not finger pointing, but it's more like, all right, whose issue is this? Is it from the fence? Is it from the network? Or is it from the electronics? Because there's there's my team, there's the IT side of it. Is it the phone? Is it the license? Because there's the electronic license, having an issue at Cali with that right now. Or is it the hinges, right? Or is it the actual electronic latch? So you just have to troubleshoot and then narrow it down and fix it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have M&O staff that are trained on this as well, since we will not have?
Not yet, and we're going to work on that because it's a new component to them, these electronic latches. So we have spares, and it's a really simple device. It's just 2 wires that gets itself triggered, but it's magnetic. So there's a lot of things that can happen with that. So, yeah, we have our locks. Who's our new locksmith? I forget. Yeah, Brian. That's right.
Okay, and then the scan in, scan out, so that you, basically on the computer, you'll be able to know everybody that's on campus, whether it be a parent, a volunteer, whoever's there, you're going to know who's there.
Right.
Does that include, itinerant special ed folks, M&O folks on the site, that kind of stuff?
Ideally, yes. So in looking at the guidelines that we're adopting from, and, to be honest, I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. So San Bernardino City, Unified School District had really nice documentation on their website, and actually Raptor pointed me to them. He says, look at their documentation, you may like it. And they have language in their guidelines that says if an employee doesn't have their badge on, they must get scanned. Like we don't, again, you know, an M&O or an IT person that walks on campus, not everyone knows them. You have to have some identification on you. So yes, if we're really looking at safety and knowing who the person is on campus, they should get scanned. And not only that, because we know where they are in the event of, you know, an earthquake, and I need to know where my guys are, because they're always out in the field, from my side, it's a centralized database. I could pull up and say, okay, I see Phil is over at Lincoln. That's the last we heard from him, is that he checked in and scanned in over at that school. Some of the things we may see as far as, I don't want to say pushback, but the issue is just what we'll hear is the amount of time, right, that the office may have to work this system, because we may hear that, well, first I've already got to buzz them in, and now they're going to come up to my desk. You know, I'm in the middle of something, now I've got to take IDs, and I've got to scan them. So it's a process, but you only need to get scanned once. So once you're in the system, and if you're a visitor, a common visitor, like I know you're already here, you know, you can just show me your ID, I punch in your name, and I print out a new badge. And then when they leave, they need to give the badge back so they don't reuse them. We have, we're not going to buy it, but there's these cool other badges that has the disappearing ink, where their name disappears and a big X shows up that says you shouldn't even be here anymore. So
Well, that's
those are
kind of cool.
that is kind of cool.
Expire. You just expire.
You just expire. Yeah, you expire. You don't belong. I wanted the ones that catch on fire. But
Well, that would be
those-
very nice.
Yeah,
but
just
probably not
smoke.
very safe. Mrs.
Yeah.
Reagan.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to follow up. The more layers of security we add, the more important this is. That the assumption is, and actually you said several times, that the employee will decide, the employee will decide whether to buzz them in, whether to let them in, et cetera, et cetera. And that's all well and good as long as it's an employee that's that person. But we all know that that's not necessarily the person making the decision at the door of every one of our schools every minute of the day. There are volunteers that do that.
Yeah, and even at I forget which high school, where someone mans
Yeah.
a volunteer a desk. So there is a lot of discretion given to the schools to make these decisions. And I think we talked about this in cabinet too. Is there, can we fine tune some of the guidelines that are appropriate across the board? And that's something we have to examine a little more, or a lot more.
Okay,
I
thank
agree.
you. I agree.
Thank you. Okay,
It was
Mr. Slagle.
That's all there is to report.
Good.
Thank you.
That's good. We have no discussion action items. We have no. We do. Oh, yeah, we do, actually. No, we got an administrative services bond consent item. Do we have?
That is it.
That's it. So we don't have number 7, is what I'm saying.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So number 8, administrative services bond consent item, 8.1. Do I have a motion and a second?
Move to approve.
Second. Okay. Any discussion?
This is the follow-up.
Right,
from
yeah.
Monday night.
Good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Good. Anyone else want to be heard? Guys that are here for their government class, run up here. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Hey, you get a half signature.
What?
They get a half signature.
Well, no, they were just luckier than most. So, a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Come on up here, guys.